With the latest Instagram update kind of wanting you to focus a lot more on stories, I figured why not go a little bit more in-depth into this whole story feature. So in this video, we're going to talk about not only hacks to up your story game, we're also going to talk about some content strategies that you can use to grow your Instagram a lot further, to trigger the algorithm in a way, and basically to make you Instagram famous, because that's what you're here for. So let's get into that, my friends. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Dominic. If you're new here, we talk about social media marketing strategies, about building your personal brand. And today we're going to talk about stories, about Instagram stories, because you probably have seen my last video. If not, it's linked somewhere around here. And basically, Instagram stated that stories are a huge part right now that you should focus on. They're going to include stories on the Explore page even, which is actually a pretty big thing. So I figured I'll tell you a little bit more in-depth things about the Instagram story feature, how you can use this whole thing to actually grow organically, because that's apparently very, very important, specifically since the second last update where they kind of tried to take down the automation and stuff like that. So the first thing that's actually not talked about anywhere is that there actually is a story algorithm that you want to become friends with naturally. And disclaimer first and foremost, of course, these things are just pure speculation on my part. Gotta tell you, this could all be wrong. But if you look at my history of kind of trying to figure out things, especially within Instagram, I'd say most of it turned out to be true. So here you go. There's a story algorithm taking place, and basically it looks for different kinds of metrics and tries to see what people are doing exactly with your stories, how they interact with your stories. As you can see in your analytics, if you have a business or creator page, are they skipping ahead? Are they hitting the back button? Are they sharing it? How long are they even watching that for? And that's a huge part. And that's actually kind of becoming the same like the algorithm on YouTube, where it kind of goes for watch time the most. I believe on Instagram, they're actually doing the same thing. They're trying to see what's the interaction with your stories. When I have lots of interesting stories where people watch a long time, where I'm sure people watch a long time, where the click-through rate is high all the way through, where people respond, where people share it, I could see that it gets some sort of a boost later on in the journey. Meaning, they actually track that. They actually try to figure out, is this story actually valuable for all the people on Instagram or not? If they say yes, apparently it's going to show your story to more and more people, eventually even showing your story to the Explore page to new kinds of people. So try to keep the algorithm at least in mind, even though, by the way, I'm going to make a separate algorithm video about the whole Instagram algorithm pretty soon. And I think there's actually two different algorithms going taking place. First of all, the regular algorithm, it kind of categorizes you into some categories and kind of tries to see who are your followers are real, who of your followers are not even interested in you anymore, stuff like that. Plus, there's a second story algorithm, like I just said. So, and I believe those two are kind of connected to each other. So you've got to have both of them down. But, we're going to make a video about that separately somewhere maybe later this week or next week. Anyway, so when creating stories, the first thing that you really have to have in the back of your mind is the algorithm. What's it gonna do? Our people, just really take a step back, try to put yourself in the shoes of your followers. Are they going to like it, or is it just some sort of filler content? And even though stories, it's okay for stories to be some sort of filler content, if you will. They don't have to be polished. Not at all. I believe stories should be here to actually show more of your personal side, show more of your unedited side, of the raw side, which people, like a lot more lately, and which people are going to get a lot more into. Plus, people are going to connect with you a lot more if they see the raw side of you. But still, even though it's raw, you can still polish it up, content-wise. Which brings me to the next point here to up your story game, which is, and it's kind of meta in a way, is learn how to tell stories. So if you're an aspiring content creator, if you're an aspiring personal brand, for example, you should be anyway, documenting whatever you do all along. You should take your subscribers, your followers on a journey with you. Best every day, of course. So you should kind of know that, telling stories about whatever is really important. And you should also do that in the story feature. It's kind of weird talking about stories and stories. if you know what I mean. Anyway, so what's a good story? Right. If you go back to elementary school, my friends, you probably have learned that a story needs to have at least a beginning, a middle part, plus an end. Alright, so how can you take this whole thing and wrap it around your Instagram stories? If you go somewhere, just don't put a boomerang of something like, oh, recording a video right now, for example. Which sometimes I still do. You know, you don't have to do it always, but I'm just talking about ways to really up your game, to really optimize this whole thing. But to actually take your people along on the ride, you know, put a establishing shot or somewhere, something that you tell your followers, right? This is status quo. This is what we're gonna do. This is what's gonna happen. Let's go. Something along the lines of that, if you know what I mean. All right. And over the course of a few stories, you're gonna be taken along with you. For example, you go traveling somewhere. You know, a lot of people, they just go to Paris, for example, and just post a story like, yeah, I'm in Paris. It's the Eiffel Tower. Awesome, right? People are going to be there, but they don't want to come back necessarily because, all right, it's the Eiffel Tower. What else is there to come? But if you have some sort of primer beforehand, if you're like, all right, I'm going to, for example, I went to Paris, last week, but I went to Paris a few months back. Basically, I dreamt about, if you know the movie Midnight in Paris, right? I couldn't sleep. I dreamt about this weird movie. I don't even know why. And woke up at 5 a.m. and I was like, I want to go to Paris, right? So woke up, took a story, told my followers, told my friends online. I kind of dreamt about Paris, so why not go to Paris, right? So this is the primer. This is the first part. This is kind of like the establishing shot. It's like the beginning of this meta sub-story, right? And then as the day went by, I got a flight, took them along with this, flew to Paris, had some breakfast, went back home again. And, just so you know, you could see the click-through rate on this was very, very high because people were interested. People wanted to know what's going to happen. People wanted to know, what's the end of the story. If you kind of want to take it on the next level, think about even a lot more ways to make a story interesting, like having a climax, some sort of problem that you have, just stuff like that. So, of course, the gist of this all being that you want people to come back to your subsequent stories, to people to click through every video. So, of course, that's not only important for people to, make people wanting to come back, but it's also, tuning right back into the first part here, the algorithm. Because if they see people want to come back, people come back all the time, it's going to recommend you to a lot more, possibly even to the explore page, which actually brings me to the third part here, which is make people interact with you as much as you can. And basically this is another algorithm part here. And here's the thing: people always think about the algorithm of this is the algorithm, game the algorithm, and you're gonna get boosted, whatever. Actually, what people always forget is the algorithm just wants to make other people, namely the users, really happy. So in turn, by thinking about your users, about your followers, by optimizing for your followers, what they do, what they like, the algorithm's gonna love that anyway, naturally. So, that's kind of a win-win situation. And, it's definitely the only way to really growth hack the algorithm, as opposed to some weird, for example, a year ago, those power likes where, nobody really was interested in stuff like that. Anyway, so obviously you want to make people interact with you. For example, Q&As work really, really well, but of course they work really well, if you share all your answers and you really do a Q&A, as opposed to, it's just ask me a question and then there's just some weird questions and you don't answer them. No, you don't want to do that. You really remember the beginning. You really want to build a connection with your audience. How do you do that? By stories, of course, plus by interacting with them. If they ask you about some weird quirks, just answer them, for example. Another thing is polls, for example. I noticed that big time, polls and the slider thing. Also, the new quiz feature, which is a very great way to make people interact. Apparently, there's a new feature coming with some lyrics. I don't even know. We're going to see. It's not here yet. It might be in Canada, for example. We'll see. Anyway, just stuff like this. This will trigger the algorithm, but it will also make people really want to connect with you. It makes, when people hit that, if they vote on a poll, it's kind of like a like even, you know, they put some effort into something that you created. So that's not only good like before for the algorithm, but it's also good, you know, for your connection with your audience. So third tip here is actually using hashtags in your stories. And if you slept the last year, I did a video probably about 10 years ago where I talked about putting hashtags in your story, and this still works. This tremendously works for my page, for clients' pages, for example. And basically, you not only can put in one hashtag with the hashtag feature in your story, but you can put in more by just putting them in the text and either pinching them down as small as you can, and maybe the background color so it's not fully gone, but really small background color so you can't see it. Or you can just take it and you'll push it to the site. It still works, by the way. I thought it would not work anymore. For me, it really works wonders. I have sometimes 1,000 more story views just because of that. Obviously, a tip would be to find some hashtags where a lot of people go on there. You can, search for hashtags, see how many people are on there, how many stories are there every day, and try to find a high performing hashtag with not that many stories on there. For example, I use a tool called Hashtastic. It's actually a pretty new tool. You can check it out. I've linked it down in the description. It's not only for ranking your hashtags for your posts, but I actually also use it to figure out some hashtags that I can use in my stories. And obviously, you can use more than one hashtag. Like I said, I use that one hashtag that you can put in, plus 3 to 5 other hashtags, and just pinch them really small, or push them to the site, for example. Obviously, lots of weird hashtags work really wonders for me. Really weird ones. Try to get yourself in your shoes of your followers or some overlapping target audiences. What are they kind of looking for? What do they kind of try to find? And then just go from there and just try out a lot of things, my friends. Basically the most important part that I could give you, the most important advice here is to actually just try out lots of things and don't get discouraged. So last tip here, which is oddly enough has not a lot to do with stories, specifically, is to focus a lot more on your regular content, to niche down as much as you can, to kind of get some focus in your content. Because like I said in the beginning, there's kind of two algorithms going on right now. The regular algorithm plus the story algorithm, and they're kind of connected. So if you got the regular algorithm down, if you're categorized within a niche, if they know, for example, you have motorcycle pics, just because the algorithm always tries to show me motorcycle pics, just because I like 3 or 4 motorcycle pics, but that just shows me, if you're really focused on a niche, the algorithms tries its best to actually feature you, to show you to other people. So if you got your regular content down, your regular content focused with some hashtag strategies, all of that, we're going to talk about that. We're going to do a separate video just about the newest and latest hashtag insights. But still, try to keep that as focused as you can, because the story algorithm is going to come from the regular algorithm, and it's going to be a big upward spiral, actually, if you ask me. And in my opinion, if you really stay focused in that niche, in your general content, chances are that you rank in the explore page with this story is really, really, really high. So, to recap this whole thing, try to keep the algorithm in mind. The easiest thing to do that is, of course, by keeping your audience in mind, by keeping in mind what do they actually want to see, what's interesting for them, what do they really want to know. Maybe even ask your audience, what specific content do you want to know and see from my site. Number 2, learn how to tell stories. Just don't throw up a random boomerang, stuff like that. Take them through a journey. Take them through beginning, middle, end, climax, whatever you can think about. Number 4, incorporate your audience. The audience is a part of who you are, of course. The audience is 90% of why you're actually here, why you create content, right? So incorporate them a lot more, kind of be in one level with your audience. And number 4, focus on your general profile, focus on your niche, because when your niche is really targeted down, if you got that down, the story algorithm is going to boost you even further, resulting in getting you into the explore page. Anyway, my friends, if you're new here, my name is Dominic. Usually we talk about social media marketing strategies, about growing on Instagram, also on YouTube, building a profitable personal brand, so that you can live off of your personal brand, for example. I got some other videos planned, so I'll see you in a couple of days. It's always the end. Whatever. Bye-bye.